The college football experience, Florida State Seminoles out of the ACC episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today, people. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time tickets make the perfect holiday gift. Sign up at gametime.co. Use that promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, gametime.co, promo code CFBX. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride.
This is Randy Cross. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Welcome to the college football experience. Florida State Seminoles out of the ACC potentially.
So we get our kicks doing the Seminole rap.
We are the Seminoles of Florida State. We know we're good, some say we're great. Our goal is simple, best in the land. Rocking to the beat of the Modest Cheese Band. On Saturday night, we'll strut our stuff to show the nation that knows our tough. When others play us, they be illin', cause they all know we just be chillin'.
Absolute fire.
The Florida State Seminoles are leaving the ACC or trying to leave the ACC. Sometimes you just can't get out that easy. All right, folks, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Danderbay's Dad, AKA Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes, we are here. The college experience is live with an emergency episode. But shout out if you watch on YouTube, you see these sweet college experience hats. You can get those over on the SGPN app. Go to the merch store on sportsgamblingpodcast.com. This could just be batshit crazy. We're going to talk all about this. I am joined by my co-host. He is from an unknown location inside of a prison. We don't know what prison yet.
Somewhere deep in Russia.
Might have a Midnight Express situation going on.
Is this your one phone call?
I appreciate you using your one phone call to talk about Florida State leaving the ACC. That's how much we love college football. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have the day off. Didn't think we were going to have to do any content, but then the world just was going crazy last night. And today, board meetings are being held. We're also joined by third man in the group. They call him the ACC god. All right. He's been repping the ACC since fucking, I don't know. I feel like since Danny Ferry was playing at Duke. Give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, home brew making, tobacco road living, the free lock giving, former Herndon Basketball League MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's up, guys? Merry early Christmas. Thank you, sir.
Merry Christmas. Okay, emergency episode. I feel like I can just cue up this all episode.
Well, I don't get the brain man cold, but
Lou Holtz's comments on this matter.
Well, I don't get the brain man cold.
Look, we knew Florida State was in a unhappy marriage with the ACC, but they're gonna test the world because no one has ever taken the
divorce papers have been filed.
yeah, officially filed. So essentially, folks, Florida State is suing the ACC over the grant of rights withdrawal fee, which is like $560 million or 570. I don't even know if that's official.
$500 million.
Yeah, and we're gonna see. No one's ever tested the grant of rights before, but why this is so important? We're gonna talk about who would get it, Florida State, but I think also why it's so important is because the schools that think that the grant of rights, no one's ever tested it, and all of a sudden, if this is beatable, watch out, because we talked about Oregon State and Washington State being there alone by themselves. Well then, hey Wake Forest, hey Syracuse, hey Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Indiana, Minnesota, buckle up, because if this gets okayed, that is a side of this. This is what I mean though, is like, we love college football. I hate it. I hate all of this, and there's no one in charge to correct shit. So you just have this crazy shit going on left and right, and because yeah, exactly, because no one has the voice of reasoning or the position of reasoning to say, let's do what's best for the sport. Instead, we have this, and this
or
is a
what's
huge
best
case
for the fans.
Yeah.
Yes, and that, which is essentially their TV product. That's the irony. The fans are your TV product. You know what I mean? Like the TV networks want to please the fans. It's a easy equation, but I do think we're running into this spot here. This is a huge case. That's why I think we had to do the emergency episode, is because not only for the ACC is over 100 years old. So we lost the Pac-12. Next up's the ACC. If this case gets approved, Florida State would then be gone, and you better believe the 7 schools that wanted to get out before, Miami, Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech would all be gone, and Louisville. Actually, I don't know if Virginia was in that. Louisville and Pitt, I think, were the other ones. Either way, this is a gigantic case, and especially because the fact you also could have, if the grant of rights don't mean anything, if you could beat the grant of rights in court, then this can change the whole landscape of everything.
Right. It's not just Florida State. It's not just the ACC. It's the whole landscape of college football. It's really, those Power 2 conferences, and not even everybody within the Power 2 conferences, because they could drop teams that aren't valuable, like Vanderbilt or, North or Northwestern or something. So this could definitely have major implications on college football as a whole.
Yeah, it's like legal precedent being set here. That is going to have future effects. I mean, I don't quite understand how it allows teams to drop other teams, other conferences to drop their dead weight.
Because that means the grant of right is like right now. If the Big Ten had to construct their own conference, they wouldn't put Indiana in their conference. They're only there because of the grant of rights.
That's true. If they could dissolve the grant of rights and this Northwestern out,
it's not just someone wanting to leave on their own accord, but it's also the conference maybe wanting to get rid of somebody. And when it comes down to money, someone like Wake Forest or Northwestern, they're another mouth to feed that doesn't necessarily bring anything to the table.
It's true.
Yeah, like Ohio State's going to be wondering, hey, why are we making? We have this $1 billion TV contract. Why are we getting the same payout as Northwestern?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here we are again talking about lawyers and lawsuits instead of all 3 of us on South Florida last night.
Yes.
Boom.
No, it's a huge problem. That's what I'm saying. Everyone's going to fuck this up. Like I wish I was more optimistic about this, but I just know that this is the history of college football. Like, there's no one in charge, and the downside is you're going to see this. Hopefully, it doesn't hold up in court, and we get the Florida State and the ACC for years to come. But I understand their argument. Their argument is, hey, they're rivals. their rivals, the Florida Gators, are going to be making even Mississippi State or, Maryland is going to be making, $30 million more than them each year. And I think what they're really concerned about is the revenue sharing, because there's a talk about these conferences, the players getting money from the TV contracts. Well, guess what? If that breaks down, which we think that's going to happen, I think that if you poll most of the people that cover the sport, that's going to happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. So that I understand that why they're pissed off. They're saying, "Hey, $30 million a year until 2037 is not going to cut it, especially when if 2 years from now, if we're paying via your TV contract, the players are getting a chunk of that. Well, then all of a sudden, Maryland and Vanderbilt can offer their coaches, their assistant coaches, their players way more money than Florida State."
Well, I mean, if it's that would be wild if they arrange for different TV contracts based, and then the NCAA or whatever entity is in control of it allows like each conference's TV breakdown allotment to the players to be different.
I think that's coming. I don't think that's wild.
I mean, that would mean the SEC and the Big Ten just get every player and every other conferences, left for.
I think this is happening, buddy.
Everything that's happening is going in that direction. It's not just this.
Yeah.
Everything is going in that direction where it's a power two and everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, and even if the new Big Ten commissioners talked about this, Tony Petitti has talked about this being the future of the Big Ten is to get essentially the players paid via their TV contracts.
And really, I mean, Florida State not making the playoff was the first thing to signify the power two is going to become a thing.
Well, I even heard that Florida State had they were planning to have this meeting in the summer.
Yeah. So
but when they got snubbed, they're like, "Fuck this." You know what I mean? Let's meet now.
And for all the people saying that, the expanded playoff will save the Big 12, the ACC, and others, not really, because I guarantee you right now, every year the SEC and the Big 10, they're going to have 3 or 4 teams in that playoff. The ACC and the Big 12 will have 1 or 2. So you're still looking at a model where the Power 2 are making double the other conferences, and that's not even talking about the G5, who only gets, 1 team in from 4 or 5 conferences, whatever it is.
And let's not even including the fact that the AC or the SEC and Big 10 re-up their contracts in like 4 years. So right now, Maryland in 4 years, Maryland will have $120 million more than Florida State if things go the way they are, right? Vanderbilt will have $120 million more than Florida State, right? Florida, their arch rival. That is the problem. And then their contract re-ups in 2030, I think it is, or 2028. So the point is they're going to get even more money. They're going to even more money then. So,
and that brings up
Florida State to leave.
Well, that brings up a good question: is where do the SEC and the Big Ten go from here? Are they good for a couple years now, or are they still looking to add a couple? And where does it make sense? I said Florida State might be overestimating their value because I don't think they're a good candidate for the SEC. I think the SEC, there's more opposition than there is interest. The only angle that the SEC wants Florida State and Clemson is to basically be on the defensive and not let the Big Ten grow.
Yes, but that's what they were with Oklahoma and Texas.
But that's also new territory too. That's the difference between Florida State and Clemson compared to Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, no, they had Texas A&M.
But Texas is huge. You can't compare Texas and Florida State. Or Texas and Clemson.
But I still think the problem is, and I think this is on record. This is not me speculating. I think Greg Sankey has. They did a story on this where he said, it's not that we wanted Texas and Oklahoma. We just knew if we didn't take them, when they called us, we knew the ACC, Big 10, or Pac-12 would take them. And all of a sudden, they become a stronger competitor than us. Yes. or someone on their level. So we had to take them, and I think that's exactly. They're not aggressive right now because we know the TV contract goes to 2037, and a lawsuit can really fucking hurt either if anyone is impeding that. But I think out on the open market, and I know that a lot of school presidents or athletic directors have been saying this in these stories that I've been reading. Out on the open market, if Florida State called the SEC and said, hey, it would put them in a hell of a bind, because do you want the Big Ten in Florida recruiting? I think Florida State fans want to be in the SEC.
I think so. I think that's where they feel like they belong.
Yeah. That's where I think the SEC would not be stupid. I think the SEC, even though they have Florida and it would piss them off, I think it is a national brand. Florida State is.
Yeah, and I don't even think they're that worried about pissing Florida off. Like, what are you going to do? Leave Florida?
Yeah. Did you see their schedule this year? Florida's they already pissed off schedule.
They need to switch. Florida to the ACC. Florida to the ACC, Florida State to the SEC.
I think there's always value in the ability to extend your league footprint into new territories, especially like the Big Ten and the ACC went west because that's new time slots. That's more money from TV partners.
That's why they say that.
Is ESPN willing to pay? Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's why they say that North Carolina and Virginia would be on their radar for Big Ten or the SEC, right? But here's another thing. By pushing that out of the grant of rights, you could then kick out Vanderbilt or Mississippi State, because one of the things is you're hitting that demographic already. Before you wanted to have two schools in each state. It's kind of how the blueprint of college football was built, was you'd have your rivals. But now if you know that Mississippi State's costing you money, essentially. Yeah.
I do feel like a lot of those schools, they want some easier games. They don't want a murderer's row of top-notch top 25 opponents. They do want some Vanderbilts and Mississippi States, but ultimately it may not be up to the school. So it may be up to the commissioner of the SEC. And if it makes sense dollar-wise, that might be what happens.
Well, another thing is, I think is, when does that bubble burst? SEC only has 16 teams. Big Ten has 18.
Right.
Big 12 has 16 after this year. I don't know. I think at what point do you have too many teams? I don't know, but I can tell you this.
Because how much more money are they bringing to the table? Does it make sense to divide up the pie, but with one more slice, if they're not bringing that much more? Is Fox or ESPN going to pay that much more for Florida State or for Clemson or for whoever else? That's a question.
I think the last known brands there, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, all have appeal.
Yeah.
What I would feel sorry about,
though, that's a question.
Yeah. What I would feel sorry about is obviously the private schools, but I also think like a school like Virginia Tech, beware what you wish for. I know you were one of those 7 saying we should look elsewhere. I don't know that the Big 12 would even invite Virginia Tech. It's a small city.
No, they
it
would.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
West Virginia, they're going to have.
But they have West Virginia for old reasons. I don't know that they would. I don't know that they would get West Virginia now.
Don't apply anymore. That's true.
Yeah, who's more valuable, Memphis or Tulane or Virginia Tech? You could almost argue that Memphis is more valuable than Virginia Tech right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It makes it so and then obviously if Florida State leaves, if this holds up in court and Florida State leaves, Clemson is going to be right around the corner.
Yes.
Miami, North Carolina, NC State, all those ones that wanted to leave. I mean,
but really the question is, where do they go? They have
to have.
Do they leave for free? Like if Florida State outright wins this, then it's pretty flexible for teams to go elsewhere. If Florida State somehow settles somewhere in the middle, then I think you almost have to have a Big Ten or an SEC invite in order to make it sense for you to be paying that reduced penalty.
Or maybe a short-term Big 12 contract.
Potentially, but there's a lot of unknowns. It's rolling a big, it's definitely a big roll of the dice if you don't think you can land in the Power 2.
They could do independent also, and this is another angle. If Virginia, if the Big Ten and SEC are against this expansion, which I find hard to believe, but then they could just take those 7 teams that were unhappy in the ACC, play in their own conference, have a 6-game conference schedule, give you more flex options outside of it, and you get a bigger slice of the pie.
Well, then who would be their media partner? I mean, it seems to me like ESPN and Fox are pretty much locked with their current conferences. So you'd have to have
CBS,
Amazon, CBS, some other TV, old school TV, or like a new tech company or something. I mean, there might be a market for that. There might be a partner that could step up, but again, it's more unknowns.
Well, and another thing is the Notre Dame angle here. I was listening to a couple people. You get me there? Did you break? Did I break up?
You did break up there for a second. What were you saying?
It might force Notre Dame's hand to join the Big Ten.
That's the
because
other
if Florida
piece.
State, Clemson are gone, Notre Dame's strength of schedule within the ACC would never be good.
Yeah. And then do they join the Big Ten or is it definitely Big Ten? I mean, the SEC makes a strong ass offer.
Big Ten. I just think Notre Dame is snobby and they would choose the Big Ten over.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, is that, Florida State right now, they're not part of the AAU, the accreditation or whatever it is that's currently needed to join the Big Ten. Now, does the Big Ten relax its laws, and allow Florida State?
They did that for Nebraska.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a hurdle, but I guess it's not that big of a hurdle.
Well, let me ask you this: beyond the ACC, the ACC's contract is based on the average, I guess, value of all of those teams, and the money is being dispersed, amongst all of them. What is it? 14 teams at this point, or 16? However many they have.
They'll have 17 next year.
17 next year, but it had been 14. Yeah. Florida State adds the majority or a lot of that value, which is why they've been trying to get a differentiated pay scale. But I think that Florida State's value is on par with an SEC's and maybe even better than the average SEC team, and they're a championship level squad at their best. I think on that alone, I mean, you might call that a defensive move, but I think in pure added value, like if you got a team that's in championship contention year in, year out, there's no way you want to leave that on the table. Even if
hang on, because I would want to say that Florida State's doing this, but some of this problem is their own fucking self. They've been shit for you had a great year this year and you were solid last year, but you had 5 or 6 years of being shitty.
Right.
I know Miami hasn't got it together, but some of this is your own fault. Now, I mean, come on, let's.
It is. Ultimately, I guess you can't blame them for wanting, more money. I mean, that if that's what it's going to take, and we bitch about them because part of it is their own fault. But on one hand, you can't blame them for taking the grand rights to task because they want to be making as much money as everybody else.
Well, and on the other hand, there are teams that got by that. Like Boston College that just said, and they never put football first. They never threw money into football.
Sure.
Syracuse the same way. And, Florida State, even though they had down years, they were still trying and putting football first, even though it wasn't working out. So,
and still
I understand
the conference, from a rating standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that side of it, but that's another thing is where do those schools end up? I mean, you want to talk about, you have Stanford and Cal, just like they had George W. on the phone getting them in the ACC. Does the ACC, if they lose those big time schools, let's say Florida State's successful, they're gone. Miami follows suit. Clemson follows suit. North Carolina, NC State follows suit. I don't know. Virginia, North Carolina. Yeah, Virginia, yes. But I don't know if Virginia Tech and Louisville and Pitt would even have a landing spot. I kind of think Louisville would probably be in the best spot. Maybe Pitt. But do they? Yeah,
some people would say it's definitely Big 12. But once again, you have to bring money to the table. You can't just be another slice of the pie just to get the conference bigger.
The edge, I think, is Brett Yormark said he's trying to create a super league for college basketball. Duke. Louisville have that appeal. Louisville have that appeal. I don't know what the fuck Virginia Tech or even maybe Pitt. I don't know if because maybe Pitt has enough basketball history that they'd be appealing, and then with football and it's a city.
One other thing
deserves an invite.
One other thing I've seen it deserve. I mean, why? I mean, nobody deserves anything necessarily anymore. This is the new world. But I've seen the model where I've seen people talk about ACC, what's left of the ACC, if all this happens in the Big East, where only half the conference or so plays football, but everybody plays basketball, which could be, I guess, kind of cool, at least for basketball. For football, it would probably be more like a G5 league, though.
Already kind of is, I mean, take Clemson and Florida State
watch
out.
your mouth.
I don't know. That's a lot of fire and brimstone. I feel like the ACC, you could say, this, that, the other. I honestly think West Virginia, I think, since you might disagree with me, might jump, they're at UCF. I mean, how good was Florida State before they came to the ACC? They had their first 11-1 year, I want to say it was like 1987, and they joined in 92. So I don't think UCF is quite as high as Florida State was when they joined, but it's not like they wouldn't be adding if they could grab, or even USF with the way they're trending could become a.
Well, I think USF might be more for the ACC. You mean?
Yeah, for the ACC. I feel like the ACC could keep themselves at 16, 18 teams if they really needed to add teams to make them like a viable conference that, and again, if you lose the grant of rights, are they able to renegotiate? Because I feel like the whole thing right here is the entirety of the ACC is being underpaid in comparison to, the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't know if that's true or not, but if they are able to renegotiate based on Florida State leaving, maybe it's similar. But
I tend to think without those name brands,
can't be any worse. It can't be much worse. I mean, if the Big 12 and their future.
Wait. I do think it'd be a lot worse. If you're telling me you're sitting there with Stanford, Cal, SMU, Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Pitt,
Miami, if they're still in there.
No, Miami's gone. Virginia's gone, I think, too.
That's not a very good football conference.
No, what I'm saying is,
I'm saying they wouldn't be able to get. Even if they got to renegotiate, I don't even think they would get Big 12 money.
There's no chance if Florida State leaves that. I mean, I assume Clemson is immediately out the door, but there's no chance.
Clemson and Miami are immediately out the door. They've already
the
tried
old guard
to.
of the ACC, like North Carolina and Virginia, won't stick around. They'll just get sucked.
I think North Carolina is the most appealing target for both conferences. I think North Carolina
exactly. It's new footprint, it's new territory that neither conference is in right now. So I think North Carolina and Virginia are very attractive. But that really comes down to, and I think I saw McMurphy on Twitter saying that he actually thinks if he had to name a favorite of who's going to win this lawsuit, he put Florida State as the favorite, which I don't know why. I don't know his reasoning behind that. We know that the ACC filed their own lawsuit first, because I think it's a battle on where this is going to be heard. Is it going to be in Florida or is it going to be in North Carolina? So that's kind of crazy there. But really, the first thing is, does Florida State beat it hands down? If so, chips will fall. I tend to think that there might end up being some kind of reduced agreement.
That's what I think.
Where they kind of meet in the middle.
That's going to happen.
I mean, can Florida State really beat this? We're not lawyers. What the hell do we know? We're a bunch of idiots that pick college football games, But it seems like they signed this willingly, like more than once. When it was renewed, they signed it more than once. So I just don't know what ground they have to stand on. I think I sent you this, that they're saying that them adding SMU, Stanford, and Cal, I think that's a solid argument for them, is saying that's not what we agreed on. It devalues. But the majority of the conference voted them in.
True. But I don't know. I think they'll probably get a reduced rate, but then all of a sudden, I think that Clemson says, "Hey, we can come up with $250 million, $200 million, something like that." Miami will say okay. North Carolina will say okay, and then you're going to have the demise of the conference.
I think if the reduced amount is still fairly hefty, then I think they have to have invites from the Power 2 to make it work, or outside investment. That's where the salty is coming.
Don't rule out the Big 12, because the Big 12 re-ups again in like 2029. Yeah. So
if this is all going to shake out before then.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're, I don't think Florida State wants to go to the Big 12, but I do think that it could be an escape plan for them of saying, hey, come here. You'll be making the same you make in the ACC. Maybe a little bit more. And then also we can renegotiate in 4 years.
Well, it's going to take a while for them to repay the exit fee.
True, but they're owned by Saudi Arabia anyway.
Well, let me ask you.
And that's what I don't think any of us want, like private investment in college sports.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming, man.
That just opens the door for, if it's not semi-pro now, then it definitely is then.
It's coming, man. I'm telling you, the FCS is the way. Yeah, I don't know. So at the end of the day, do you think the ACC will stand with other members? Like, do you think they'll form like a little Big East of their own? If everyone leaves?
A lot of dominoes have to fall before that even comes into play. I do think they have time on their side where the Pac-12 didn't. The earliest Florida State could leave would be to the 2025 football season. So it would be July 1st, 2025. Now, who knows how long these court cases are going to take to be determined. But the ACC has a little time on their side to add potential people like maybe UConn, or I mentioned Memphis before, or who knows.
The real threat, I think, is whenever they pay the players on TV contracts. But to me, like, what do you think the perfect amount is? Because I don't believe, like, when you see A&M's crazy amount of money that they have, and I know they make 60 million or I think 50 million on their TV contract every year, but they still go 8-4 every year.
Like, just because you have money doesn't mean that's a winner. Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand their arms race. It makes it easier, but at the same time, wouldn't you, like, right now, if you're the ACC and these schools just load in, you have SMU. This is where I disagree with Florida State. Like Stanford and Cal, yes, they don't offer a ton, but they do have money, right? And then SMU could be, if the ACC just got their shit together. I understand the contract going to 2037 is a problem. I don't know how the fuck you get out of that, but I'm just saying, if the ACC ever lived up to its potential for just a few years, and I actually think adding SMU could really be a great thing for them.
We mentioned this before. That might be a blessing in disguise because they almost begrudgingly added them, But if Florida State can get out of the Granite Rights contract, why can't the ACC get out of their media contract? What the hell is the point of contracts anymore?
That's true. Everybody, right? But I think that's one of the things. Like, if you tell me Clemson's firing at all cylinders, Florida State and Miami, that's three big powers. If SMU goes all in on football, I think that could be. And then you really are saying, like, I think they could go toe to toe with the tops of some of these other conferences, especially with you have Notre Dame as a somewhat of a member. And then if North Carolina and NC State keep winning at the level they could win at, or NC State's one of those ones that's always been a dud too. You know what I mean? Like, if NC State can start winning 9-10 games and go all in on that. Pitt is another one. When you think about the ACC with Louisville, Pitt, Miami, NC State, these are programs that all could be way better.
For sure.
Yeah, the ACC was supposed to be what the SEC has become. When they first constructed it, and you thought you had Virginia Tech, who was coming off national championship appearance, fucking Miami, who had just won one, Florida State, and then Clemson, what they could have become. Yeah, I mean, that's the equivalent of like Bama, Georgia, LSU, and, whatever, Auburn, kind of. I mean, not quite, but almost right there. So,
I mean, it wasn't that long ago. That's my problem with Florida State. I understand their dilemma, but I just think it wasn't that long ago we were watching SEC football and Ole Miss and Mississippi State were shitty programs. Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Kentucky, awful programs. Now you could argue that money changed all that, but I also think like just getting your ducks in a row and putting football first could be what could save this conference. But I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Let me read an ad and then we can do our final thoughts and get out of here. But
I think we
tell
should.
Folks out there.
Go ahead.
What's that?
I think we should all give our prediction as far as like what it's going to look like eventually after your ad.
Okay. Folks, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. They got NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, and college football. Simply pick higher or lower in your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. So what do you do? Watch along, make picks, maybe make a little extra cash on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code TCESGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Once again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, look, last minute tickets at the lowest price guarantee. Game Time is fantastic, all right? Because buying tickets to your favorite event should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, and comedy and theater that is near you. With killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll be having at that very event. So what are you doing, folks? Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Game Time tickets make the perfect holiday gift. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create that account, redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, we are back on the college football experience. Florida State leaving the ACC potentially with the spread of legal gambling. I think college basketball become much more closer in popularity than college football soon. I do think it'll be on the rise. I know Brett Yormark has said like it's being undervalued. Their TV contracts are being undervalued. I do think that will be on the rise, but still football is football.
Football's king.
Yeah. We just saw the bowl game between UCLA and Boise State and the Celebration Bowl. Both were played on Saturday. The Celebration Bowl FCS, Florida A&M taking on Howard. Both those, well, UCLA Boise did better. The Celebration Bowl, I think, did just a tiny bit better than North Carolina, Kentucky in college basketball.
Yeah.
They are inherently in a better place on the calendar. You know, you're starved for sports. You come in, football's got the entirety of your attention. And then, you know, throughout the season, you're already invested. You can't, unless you're a diehard basketball fan and, you know, can devote yourself to both college football and basketball. You're going to be late to the party with college basketball almost every year, the average fan. And so it's just like, it's tough. It takes until January, February, March for the college basketball to really explode. So
yeah, you mentioned they were better than the UNC Kentucky basketball game. Well, they're also probably better than like the baseball World Series.
Oh yeah,
you know, NBA playoffs,
Celebration
anything, NHL. I mean, football is still king in this country.
Yeah. I mean, Army Navy does better than a lot of the NBA Finals games. Yeah. Like almost every NBA Finals game. So, but I will say, man, if the Big 12 got like Louisville, Duke, you know, maybe UConn and NC State or something, that's their 20. Good God, can you imagine? That's just a
monopoly on college basketball.
Yes, even next year with the additions of Arizona and what's the other big? I guess Colorado and Arizona State have decent programs, but really adding Arizona next year.
Okay, let's get to our final predictions here because what do we think? I personally think like we said, I think they're going to be able to get out at a reduced rate. I think they are going to join. I actually think when it's all said and done, they're going to be in the SEC because I think the SEC knows it'd be stupid to give them to the Big Ten. And I think the Florida State fans have a desire to want to be in the SEC. I think they'll end up there. Now, as far as Miami, I could see them being in either. Clemson, I think, will end up in the SEC. I think North Carolina is one that I truly have no idea. I think they will. I think they're gone. I do think the ACC might be sustainable to stay alive as a conference. Like I said, maybe they can talk Duke, say, hey, Duke, Wake, Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, SMU, Stanford, Cal. Let's move forward. Virginia Tech, maybe. I mean, I don't think, like I said, I think like when I look at this, Virginia Tech stands out to me as the Oregon State of this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like a lot of parallels.
Yeah, they have a passionate fan base, but they're in the middle of fucking nowhere, and they're the second team in the state.
Yeah, even though they're in the middle of nowhere, that's where they're located. Their alumni though is the DC area. Does that help at all?
Sure, I think maybe a little bit more than Oregon State there.
I mean, is Virginia Tech really the second team in the state? When it comes to football, they are most certainly the top team in the state. Outside of JMU, obviously.
I think they're not like a power program in football, right? They're just an average program in football.
I'd argue that Maryland was invited to the Big Ten because of their proximity to DC. But I would argue that
ratings thing too. Yeah.
I would argue that there's a larger Virginia Tech presence fan base, especially in Northern Virginia. Maybe not Maryland, but that whole area, though, you could argue Virginia Tech presence is just as big as Maryland presence.
Sure, but I would also say, I mean, Washington State fans are all over Seattle. You know what I mean? I don't know if that matters as much anymore.
I mean, Virginia Tech was on SEC's radar for years when they were winning a little more. Like, say they have a good year this year, they might pop back up on the radar. I think they've been down for so long that everyone's kind of forgotten how valuable of an entity they were just like a decade ago. I don't know if they
bring money to the table for that.
That's not that much. Yeah.
To me, I think it was just Frank Beamer's great run there. I think that they're probably wise to the fact that like, hey, that was just one good coach that caught lightning in a bottle. And when you think of Blacksburg, Virginia, it's hard. It's hard to get to. That was one thing they asked the athletic director of Oregon State, what could they do to get an invite? And he was like, we need an airport. We need a fucking airport in Corvallis, right?
That might help.
Yeah. I think that, so I do think that's the one, like I said, Boston College deserves it in my opinion. Virginia Tech does not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Virginia Tech is to me one that beware what you wish for. Cause Virginia at least has basketball national championships in the past 5 years. You know what I mean? Like in a rich basketball history.
But to my point earlier, it doesn't matter about deserving or not. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what success you've had in the past. It doesn't matter how rabid your fan base is. It doesn't matter.
DB Cooper saying Washington State has more alumni in Seattle than Washington. So,
okay. So maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah. So maybe they are the Virginia Tech. Yeah. Patty C, what's your prediction?
I am very much not knowing how this is going to play out. I mean, I guess everyone is. Yeah. In my gut, I'm saying the ACC is going to be able to retain Florida State until, Florida State, either the ACC comes up in the next few years, whether it's Miami or Clemson. It's got to be Miami, right? Miami's got to make the jump. And then if you have Clemson, Miami, and Florida State all, competing for playoff berths year in, year out, then the ACC is a much more marketable entity and can renegotiate prior to the end of the grant of rights with ESPN, which I would assume becomes a reality. They're not going to be on the same contract till 2036, no matter what. But I think that's also my heart a little bit. If I'm listening to my head, yes, I think it's just I haven't been able to predict these other things coming along, like Texas, Oklahoma. There were whispers of it. I didn't believe it was going to happen. It happened. All these other dominoes that have fallen. I wasn't sure that they were going to happen, and then they did happen. So if these are this loud of screams that this is going to happen, maybe Florida State ends up going to the SEC, and what happens to the rest of the ACC, I don't know. It seems like there's been like a much slower dominoes falling after the fact each time. So I don't think the ACC is just going to explode into a million pieces, but over the next decade, it might start to look very different.
And I'll say this, like timing. You mentioned West Virginia when we're talking about Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, I think, might really pay the penalty because of timing, because I don't think the Big 12 can add more than 4 more schools. There's 16. I think there's only 4 more schools. I think at 20, you can't have conferences with 25 teams. I just don't think that will ever happen. So timing might play the biggest role on fucking over teams like Pitt or Virginia Tech
it's win now territory for all these teams. You know, you got to have a nice next year or two to make yourself most marketable, because only a few of them are getting selected.
Yeah,
but ultimately that might not even matter, because again, it doesn't really matter about
wins and losses.
Well, I mean, it's a factor, your success on the football field, but it sometimes it's not even the biggest factor.
Yeah,
that's true. Obviously, the city.
By the way, Colby, are you drinking Jack straight out of the bottle?
No, that's tea.
Okay, you know, it almost looks like a Jack Daniels bottle.
Be on brand.
Hey, I would need to do that because I think this is all terrible for the sport. But
Right.
NC
Well,
Nick, give me your
right,
projections.
well, if the ACC completely dissolves, I might be drinking Jack straight from the bottle.
Yeah.
Look, I live in North Carolina. I've been an ACC fan for a long time, so obviously, I'm gonna look at this optimistically. I don't want the conference to dissolve. I don't want it to look radically different, where we're basically G5. I'm gonna say, in the next 2 years, I guess it's 2025. I guess Florida State and Clemson leave. They find a home in the SEC. So the SEC and the Big Ten both have 18. But then I think there's going to be a pause until at least a few more years down the road before any other conference grabs more teams. I don't think Miami or UNC is going to go Big 12, because I don't think the dollar amount is going to be enough to justify whatever exit fees they have to incur, because I think there is going to be some kind of agreement or something. I think it's going to still be a pretty large number. It might not be a $500,000, or I'm sorry, $500 million.
Though? In that scenario, you paint, then would Notre Dame stay with the ACC? I don't think they would.
Oh, that's true. I mean, because then if they go somewhere else, say the Big Ten, then maybe the SEC further expands also. But for now, I'm going to say maybe Clemson and Florida State go to the SEC, but I still don't know how interested the SEC is in them. We'll see. And the ACC largely stays intact.
Yeah.
He's hoping.
Fingers crossed.
I think Miami is gone with Clemson. I don't think they're sitting there and waiting.
I still think they have to have a home, and I think it's either the Big Ten or the SEC.
I could see Miami jumping to the Big 12.
If it makes sense financially, that's a question. How if they can go for free or pennies on the dollar out of the ACC, then yes, I can see that.
Say Miami,
but if
takes
it's still a
one
substantial
step forward,
exit fee, then you need enough money coming in to pay those bills.
Yeah, it's not going to be a huge, that's true. What is it, like 120 million, $150 million exit fee? So that's a lot to pay off.
But the Big 12, to me, I think could be. It's crazy. The Big 12's in a good spot because they can pick off these teams like that.
Now, is this you hoping?
But I think they would wait until they get a chance to renegotiate.
No.
When do they get a chance to renegotiate again?
Dude, I'll be honest. I don't want any more expansion ever again. All right. I want the ACC to stay the ACC. No, what I'm saying, it's not what I want. What I want is the ACC to stay the way it is.
Yeah.
But I do think the Big 12 saying, hey, we have to renegotiate in a couple of years here. We can probably get $45 million, $50 million.
Yeah. Then maybe the next dominoes will fall. But that's in how many years is that in?
I want to say they have to yeah, I think it's 27 or 28, maybe.
Okay, so then maybe some more dominoes fall. But I think if you're talking about, a year or 2 years down the road, I'm going to say the ACC only maybe loses 2. We'll see. Who knows?
DB Cooper says, at what point does this blow up in their faces? That's what we've been wondering with Oklahoma coming in. Are they the new Arkansas?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or the new Nebraska.
And yeah, exactly. And I think Florida State should think long and hard about their aspirations for joining the SEC. I think Florida State could flourish in the Big Ten, but the SEC, I don't know that they could be. You're talking about where would they fall? I mean, I know this year they were undefeated, but I'm just saying you could build a case that could be detrimental to their future in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, is it about winning or is it about just making a lot of money? And from the school president or the AD, obviously they want to do both, but I think maybe more important is just making the money. You know what? I'm making SEC money. Who cares if we go 8-4, and we play in the, Honolulu Bowl or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
It's all
I think there's some value to being a playoff contending team, obviously being in the playoffs, but just like winning. Winning is the ultimate recruiting tool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could be wrong. Mississippi State finishes with top 25 classes all the time, probably because they have the money and the SEC. But then, If you're a 10-1, team and it's still a Power 5 conference, 11-1 team, you're going to get some recruits. So, but again,
we shout out to Weehawk, shout out to Nathan, and appreciate everyone in the chat. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It sucks though. ACC's been around for a long time. I could remember, I know Nick can attest to this, like the just big, especially on the basketball front, you would have these gigantic games growing up as a kid throughout the week. You would circle your calendar around, Duke's playing Maryland, Georgia Tech's playing NC, like there was every game seemed like it was a gigantic fucking game.
Yeah.
And to toss all of that away, the history of the conference, it's terrible. I think it's terrible for the sport. I think it's terrible.
Hopefully it won't happen.
Yeah.
But it might.
Anyway, folks, give us a follow. This is our show. We're done. We're done talking fucking Florida State. Little bitches. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, look, I understand their predicament, but I also think, what do you think that cap is on how you can just have a good football team? I don't think you need that much fucking money to be a good football program.
But so I don't know. I mean, I just think that if you go to the SEC or the Big Ten, like I said, they're going to have 3 or 4 playoff teams in every year. So I think if you think you can be one of those 3 or 4, you have a chance to win it all every year. Where the ACC and Big 12 for now might only have 1 or 2 teams. But you think it's easier to get in from one of those?
Yeah, it might.
But also, is that short-sighted? Because I tend to think they're going to expand past 12 once they see the money, just like the NFL did. So is it short-sighted by you saying, let's join this mega conference just because potentially 10 years of us having a hard time getting in the playoff? What happens if they go to 18 or 22 or whatever the fuck, I
mean, their income or their revenue gets doubled. It's hard to, just like, take it on a personal level. Like if any of us in our normal job, if someone comes to you and is willing to pay you double, you're like, well, you might like the company that you're currently with, but you're willing to get paid double. You might take that leap of faith. And if things don't work out, then you figure it out down the road.
Yeah. TV networks, man. All you had to do was let them in the playoffs, you pieces of shit, because they were deserving. They were the most deserving team, but you fucked it up, college football.
Still would have happened, but this definitely sped up the process.
They probably did it on purpose. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, folks. Give us a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Patty C's on Twitter at PattyC831. NC Nick's on Twitter at NC__NICK. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. Follow away, all that good stuff. Want to wish you guys a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. I'll be back tonight talking college basketball and the college basketball experience. Let's go. Subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. It's the hub for all of our shows, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Check them out as well. And be back tonight talking college hoops. Can't wait. Until next time, folks, this is the college football experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
So we get our kicks doing the Seminole rap.
We are the Seminoles of Florida State. We know we're good, some say we're great. Our goal is simple, best in the land. Rocking to the beat of the Munch Cheese Band. On Saturday night, we'll strut our stuff to show the nation that knows our tough. When others play us, they be illin', cause they all know we just be chillin'.